Let's use a spreadsheet to translate language. I have a confession to make. I'm a bit of a spreadsheet snob. In almost every way imaginable, Microsoft Excel is a far superior product than Google Sheets. But there is an area of Google Sheets that I think is pretty cool. And it relates to a function called Google Translate. Admittedly, using a spreadsheet to translate language probably isn't practical in a lot of situations. However, I think there's a few instances where it can be handy when you have lists of words or want to translate into multiple languages really quickly. So let's take a look at how we would do that. So I have a table here that lists a bunch of English words right here that I want to translate. So to do that, I'm going to type equals and then Google Translate. You can see by the little screen tip here that the first thing that we need to give it is the word or phrase that we want to translate. So in this case, we'll reference cell A2. The next thing is the source language, which is the language that the original word is in. Now this function uses Isocodes for languages that we'll get into a little bit later, but I know that the code for English is EN. And then the last thing that we need to give is the language that we want to translate into. In this case, it's ES for Spanish. If we hit enter, it loads, and then we see manzana. We can pull this formula down. And now we quickly have a list of Spanish words for the English equivalent. Now let's say we wanted to learn Italian as well. We can come over here to this column and type Google Translate. Now we could translate using the English column, but let's just do Spanish, just for fun. The source language is ES for Spanish, and the target language is IT for Italian. And we hit that, and it's meta. And then we can pull that down as well. Let's take a look at these Isocodes that this function uses. Right here, I've got a list of a bunch of languages and their Isocodes that the Google Translate function uses. I've got this table on the website in the description below that you can use for your reference as well. So let's say we wanted to figure out how to say the word hello in all of these languages. We'll use the Google Translate function again. And the text will come up here to hello. And we're going to use absolute values here. So we'll press F4. And what this does is it just says we always want C1 in this function. And you'll see why that's important when we pull this down. We'll hit comma. The source language is going to be English for EN. And then the target language will reference this cell right here. Press enter. Hello. Now, when we pull this down one, because we referenced C1, it's always going to keep C1, but it's going to move this B5. So we can then pull this function down. And see how to say hello in over 100 languages. Again, this might not be the most practical way to translate everything that you could ever use, but it would be a great way to impress all your friends. The last thing we'll go over is another function to help detect a language. So let's say that we copy and pasted something from the internet and we have no idea what language this is in. There's a function called detect language, and this you just reference the phrase. Hit enter and it gives you JA, which based on this Isocode table, JA is Japanese. So we could come here and say Google Translate that the source language is Japanese, and we want it to go into English. And would you look at that? It's Spreadsheet. One other quick tip, built into the Google Translate function is an auto feature. So if we go Google Translate and say we want to look up this, if we wanted Google Translate to figure out what language this was, we could just type auto. And then if we even wanted to just translate it into the language that our computer system is set to, we could type auto again. And it's going to recognize that that phrase is in Japanese and my computer settings are in English. Therefore, it's going to translate it from Japanese to English. So really, if you're just doing a straight translation to English or whatever language your computer is set in, you could just use the auto, and that would give you the answer as well. So there you go. Yet another problem solved by a spreadsheet. Let me know if you can think of a good way to use this function in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you can keep up to date with all of my videos. And until next time, go spreadsheet something awesome.